After breaking down the biggest winners of the offseason in my last video, now I'm here to break down the biggest losers. Of course, who better to start with than both LA teams? Then what I see a lot of people disagreeing with, but I'm pretty firm on the Philadelphia 76ers being losers this offseason. Yes, I think they severely overpaid Paul George and it will backfire in the long run. Then I have the Chicago Bulls, Denver Nuggets, and Miami Heat. Let's start with the greatest circus in sports right now, the Los Angeles Lakers. This once prestigious franchise has now become a clown show with nepotism in full effect. Every year we have to talk about potential stars coming in only for them to go elsewhere. The Lakers have done nothing but hire an inexperienced coach, LeBron's podcast buddy, while drafting his son who's clearly not ready for the NBA. Then he just got way too much spotlight for how poorly he performed for most of the summer league. Now it's not like the Lakers wasted a pick with the 55th overall pick. I know, the problem is the unnecessary distractions that are coming with this just for the sake of selling tickets and making money, which the Lakers were doing just fine with even when they were terrible before LeBron came to the team. The Lakers also lost a good bench player in Taurean Prince. Multiple free agents have turned the Lakers down, and rightfully so, because who actually wants to play for this circus? I think more and more people are starting to see what LeBron's all about. He needs everything to be his way and he deflects blame when the team loses. I can't wait for the Lakers to just start from scratch whenever that'll be. LeBron may have done a lot to bring a championship back to LA, whether you think that championship is legitimate or not, but he's also done just as much, if not more, to ruin this franchise. With his massive ego, he has driven this franchise away from its commitment to excellence. It's a hard time to be a Lakers fan right now, from Jerry West's passing and how the Lakers didn't even give him a proper tribute after all he's done for the franchise, the Celtics retaking the lead for most championships in NBA history, and now the circus that's been this offseason. So now the other LA team, I don't think the Clippers will be bad this year. They got back Nicholas Batum and acquired Derrick Jones Jr. Those are two solid role players. However, they are losers this offseason, and it dates all the way back to the 2019 offseason when they gave up way too much for Paul George just to ensure that they're getting Kawhi Leonard. Well, they just lost Paul George for nothing. Now, while I don't believe Paul George is a championship player by any stretch of the definition, he's still easily a good enough player to have some value, and the Clippers lost him for nothing. The Thunder still have the rights to swap picks with the Clippers next year and an unprotected first round pick in 2026. Rebuilding would be the best option for the Clippers, but that might be hard to do without a guaranteed first round pick until 2030. Yeah, they're moving into a new arena, and so what if they're bringing a rebuilding team into a new arena? The sky will not fall. Sure, you won't sell out every game, but a new arena should be enough to sell some tickets. The new arena has an outdoor basketball court for fans to play on, has the t-shirt cannon above the massive Halo scoreboard, every seat has a USB charger in it. It shouldn't be hard to sell any tickets at all, no matter who's on the team. If possible, the Clippers need to trade Kawhi while he still has value, but that might be hard to do because of the extension they signed him to in January, which is making him close to $50 million a year for the next 3 years. And because he can never stay healthy whether he load manages or not, the Clippers at least need to try to trade him to get any draft capital back. At least James Harden's 2-year $30 million deal is way more tradable, and I'd want to do it sooner rather than later. He quit on the last 3 teams he played for. We should only think it's a matter of when and not a matter of if he'll quit on the Clippers too. I don't expect the Clippers to trade one and not the other though. At least the Clippers got something back for Russell Westbrook, but not really much at all, and to be fair, his trade value is at an all-time low at this stage of his career. With how things are now, this team can only be in NBA purgatory. It certainly doesn't help them that the Western Conference is so stacked right now to the point where the 11th seed was a 500 team last season. Last season was the first time this has ever happened in NBA history. Now for what I know a lot of people will disagree with, the Philadelphia 76ers are losers this offseason, but just to be clear, they are not on here because they got worse. I fully acknowledge that they actually undeniably got better, and yes, Paul George is absolutely an upgrade from Tobias Harris. The reason the Sixers are losers in my opinion is the price they they brought in Paul George at. Having PG as your third option sounds pretty good on paper, but almost $53 million a year is too much for a guy who's 34 years old. He'll be getting paid that until he's 38. He's injury prone and has not been good enough in the big games. He's made the game harder for himself than it needs to be for years. Is he really worth paying that much money until he's 38? I don't think so. Your best player already has a hard enough time staying on the court, right? We also know both Embiid and PG to be guys who haven't been very capable of holding themselves accountable, so both of them on the same team to go along with their injury histories and excuses, yeah, I think this can have short-term benefits, but will backfire in the long run. The new CBA won't make it any easier for the Sixers to fill out the rest of their roster because they've allocated 77% of their salary to Embiid, PG, and Tyrese Maxey. I've already seen it with the Lakers when they allocated 81% of their salary to LeBron, AD, and Russell Westbrook, and that was before the new CBA. I don't expect the disaster that the Lakers were, at least not right away, because at least Paul George is much more capable of playing off the ball and hitting outside shots than Russell Westbrook. But when Paul George and Joel Embiid get injured, which is unfortunately likely, it'll be really difficult for the Sixers to overcome now because of how much more difficult they made it for themselves to add much depth. The Sixers brought back Andre Drummond on a cheap deal. I don't mind him as a backup center, but I'd be very worried if he has to start because Embiid is injured. Or when Paul George is hurt, that would force Kyle Lowry on his last legs to start again and have Reggie Jackson, one of the main reasons the Nuggets second unit was so bad last season, to be in the Sixers rotation. That would be my biggest concern. It actually wouldn't be Kelly Oubre filling in that void, even though of course he's not as good as Paul George, but he's not terrible. It's what would happen with the backcourt. Even as good as Tyrese Maxey is, that would be the biggest concern there. We can also talk about their fourth highest paid player, Caleb Martin, who's making a little under $9 million this upcoming season and became an unsung hero during the Miami Heat's 2023 finals run. Can he still be an effective player while no longer being part of the Heat culture? He was a nobody in Charlotte. We just saw Gabe Vincent's career take a nosedive with the Lakers. Now for the Chicago Bulls, it's clear as day they are rebuilding. I'm not sure they're off to the right start though. Josh Giddey for Alex Caruso and DeMar DeRozan going to the Kings. They didn't even get any of OKC's 10 first round picks that they have until 2030. How are you supposed to start a rebuild like that? They're really banking on Josh Giddey to have a career revival. I don't think that's a great idea. They only got 2 second round picks in the sign and trade that sent DeMar DeRozan to Sacramento. No first round picks though? You could have done better than that. They can still do better than this if they get a really good haul back whenever they trade Zach LaVine, which they have no reason not to, but until they do, they are losers. Next for this offseason's losers are the Denver Nuggets, a team that's still very top heavy. Nikola Jokic still has a strong argument for the best player in the world. However, they already lost some depth last year when Bruce Brown decided to get more money in Indiana. Now they lost KCP and brought in Russell Westbrook. Yes, unlike KCP and Bruce Brown, Russ is a penciled in future Hall of Famer. The problem is that he doesn't fit as well as either of them because he can't space the floor and needs the ball more than those guys do. Even though he may be willing to accept that his best days are behind him, he's not capable of adapting. I think the Nuggets will have Russ lead the second unit to give them an identity, but get minutes with the starters, and if that's what they're doing, even at this stage of his career is still best suited as a starter, and to get the most out of him, you need to let him work through his mistakes. The problem with him starting though is having 2 non-shooters and him and Aaron Gordon on the floor together. The alley-oops between them will probably be exciting, but the floor spacing will not be good. Also, do you guys really trust Christian Brown to fill in that void as the starting shooting guard being left by KCP? He's not bad as a second unit guy. He's a pretty good 3-and-D player, but he's only started 10 games in the 2 seasons he's been in the league. We'll have to see if he's ready to make that leap to be a starter, but I think he's a downgrade from KCP. The Nuggets also got Dario Saric as a depth guy, but I'm not even a little bit convinced that he can really move the needle. Again, the West is stacked, and as long as Nikola Jokic is in his prime, I'd only imagine the Nuggets should be in win now mode, and getting Russell Westbrook sounds to me like a desperation move. I don't expect him replacing KCP to be nearly the disaster with the Nuggets that it was with the Lakers, because Russ won't be expected to even be the fourth best player on the team, while with the Lakers he was their third best player and a terrible fit. Still, I don't think the Nuggets are doing what is needed to be done to get back to the mountaintop. The last loser I have is the Miami Heat. They watched the Knicks get better. Even though I have the Sixers as a loser, it's not because they got worse. In fact, they got better. And the Celtics kept their core intact. The Bucks even got Taurean Prince, who is fine as a backup, just not as a starter. The Heat, though, they did nothing besides sign Alec Burks, who's 32 and wasn't very good for the Pistons or the Knicks this year. Sure, he put up some good numbers in the playoffs against the Pacers, but he got his opportunities because the team got depleted by injuries, and he wasn't good enough to help the Knicks overcome their injuries. I just don't see him as a guy who will move the needle. Jimmy Butler is only getting older, and Bam Adebayo hasn't really made any big strides in his game in the last couple of years. I'm not banking on them having another Cinderella run to the finals. I wouldn't count it out either, but just not something that I'm totally convinced will happen again. Maybe they have another diamond in the rough like they did with Duncan Robinson 4 years ago and Caleb Martin and Gabe Vincent in their last finals run, but those are not the players a team can truly depend on to win the finals or even get there. So that's it for my losers of the 2024 offseason. What do you guys think? I look forward to reading your comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, a like would be really appreciated. If you could please consider subscribing and turning on notifications. Your support is much appreciated, and welcome to the team. If you're already subscribed, thanks as always. Links to my social media are down below for my more immediate reactions to what's going on in the sports world. If you'd like to see my most recent video or the one that YouTube recommends, both are up above. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.